I guess we're going to make an interesting video on the Wild Rifts. They're back with a Corki complete guide. So now, Corki can be played both as a mid laner and an ADC. Most people say that Corki mid lane is better. I think that Corki ADC is pretty good as well. Because Corki is a late game character, so in the early game he's going to be pretty weak. And more or less just trying to scale to late game, something like a Vayne or even a Kai'Sa who just want to get to their item break points and get to their power spikes. But Corki is relatively short range, so I do like to play him in the ADC role. Firstly, because I'm an ADC main, and secondly, because you can be protected by a support, especially if that support is like a Janna or like a tanky support which can peel for you. And China supports are okay as well, but I prefer like tanky supports that can peel, or you know, some basically anybody who can peel. But basically we're gonna just jump into the practice mode and cover his skills, abilities, and leveling order. So Corki actually has a lot of things to talk about when it comes to the skills. So we're first gonna talk about the leveling order, then we'll move on to the skills. So first off, we're gonna put ourselves to the maximum level, like so. So level 1, you'll be taking your Q, and level 2, you'll be taking your E, like that, and level 3, of course, your W, so you have all spells. Then you will max Q first, of course take your ultimate whenever available, and then max E, and then max W last. So the leveling order is pretty straightforward, but what isn't straightforward is his abilities. So first up, his passive. So the first part of his passive is the package, and the package will be spawning at 4 minutes. So hopefully when we get to that, we will show off the package. And the next part of his passive is the fact that he does both physical and magic damage. So we're going to be putting a bot here, a dummy I should say, at our usual spot. So if you guys notice, when I attack the dummy, there is 49 magic damage, 51 now. Okay, I'm stacking Conqueror, so let's get to maximum Conqueror stack. So I'm doing 61 magic damage, and then like 6 plus 16, which is 22 physical damage. So you guys can see that I have mixed damage. So this is one of the strengths of Corki, because it's really hard to itemize against him. Since he technically does both physical and magic damage, you can't just build physical you can't just build physical defense or magic defense. You gotta kind of build both. So that's a sort of the problem for the tanks. Now since he was, I would say he's meant to be played mid lane, not ADC. He is more primarily magic damage. As you guys can see, his basic attacks do magic damage. His first ability does magic damage, so he does do more magic damage than physical damage, but he still does physical damage, and he plays like an ADC. So he is like an ADC that was meant for the mid lane all along. That's the first part of his passive. The second part we'll discuss later. So here is his first ability, Phosphorus Bomb. So it's an AoE ability. As you guys can see from the circle, anybody in the circle get hit. We're just going to put another enemy dummy here just to show you what I mean. So they're both in the circle. They're both going to get hit. Boom. Both of them take damage, and as you guys can see, the eyes above their heads, they are revealed for a couple of seconds. So what you can do is you can use this ability to check bushes. So if you guys can see, there's an enemy dummy over there. I'm going to throw it in there, and the enemy dummy is revealed for a couple of seconds, like you see there. So this is his main ability that you're going to be using a lot in the laning phase, just to CS like that, or to just poke. So you want to normally be using quite a lot of this ability in the laning phase, but your W and your E not so much, because you are really mana hungry, and the build that I normally go does not involve mana mune, because I don't like the mana mune build, but I will still be talking about it later. So his W is a short dash. It's Valkyrie. So basically what it does is it's basically a dash. So that does give him quite a bit of safety already as an ADC kind of character, where you have a dash. But it also leaves a trail that will damage enemies. So if you guys can see, if I Valkyrie over, the enemy dummies are going crazy, taking damage per second there. and his E is a Gatling gun. So you can actually see the range of it until somehow I managed to get the range to come out for a while there. But basically, the Gatling gun is when you first use it, it might be a little bit of a wonky skill because basically, it will kind of follow whatever direction that you are facing. So, let me put myself to 0 cooldown. So, Gatling gun basically what it does is it of course does damage and it shreds defenses. So as you guys can see, it went from 6 damage to 7 damage. So now it's, you know, their armor and their magic is getting shredded. If you guys can see, so it's as you guys can see, it will always face the front. So it sort of depends what you're trying to attack. So if you walk over here and you start attacking, it's gonna go face backwards. So it's not a fixed direction. It faces whatever direction that the nose of your plane is facing. I guess is the best way to describe it. It faces the direction that your nose is facing, and it will shred defenses. So if you guys can see, I'm doing let's fully stack up Conqueror first before we get an accurate measure. So we're doing 61 magic damage. So now we're gonna shred, and I can see we're doing 63, we're doing 66, we're doing 68. Yeah, 68. So it does increase your damage by a little bit. So which is important. So you normally want to use your E at the start of the fight if the enemy is in range. Of course, if the enemy is like only in range of your ultimate, you just use your ultimate, you don't use your E. But if you are close by, because your auto attack range and your E range is the same, so whoever you can E, you can auto attack. So if you're going into E range to auto attack them like that, as you can see, his auto attack range is really short. That's what you want to do. So your ultimate is basically just a skill shot. It's a long range skill shot at that. So it can reach really, really far like that. So that's all it is. It's just a skill shot that does damage like that. And every third skill shot, as you guys can see, it does have a sort of crackle at the skill button there. And also on below Corki's mana bar, you can see that red one. The closest one to level 15 is the missile you're gonna fire, and that red one is the empowered one. So this one does more damage. As you guys can see, it did 229 damage, and a normal one will do 115 damage. So it does almost double the damage. Alright, so now we're gonna take a look at our package. I could have just recalled, but instead what we're going to do is we're going to use our 1 second cooldown flash. So this is the package. It drops at the 2 corners. So what you want to do, you just stand over it for like a second and you'll pick up the package. What happens when you have the package is you have an increased movement speed by 35%, and you also, your Valkyrie, your W becomes empowered to become this package. So it basically has a longer range, and it will knock enemies away. So here is a demonstration. As you can see, the target dummies are together. Boom, they're whacked away from the center, and it leaves this trail, same as the Valkyrie, but it gives like a 90% slow and does way more damage. So what you normally want to do is after you package, imagine this is my package, I package over and I'll Valkyrie to reposition, because normally your package, you want to get it across the enemies or at somewhere where the enemies want to stand, are going to stand to zone, and normally that leaves you in a horrible position. So normally what you want to do then is you want to Valkyrie and just get yourself back to safety. So now we've spent quite a bit of time covering his leveling aura and his skills, because his skills are technically a little bit more complicated than the usual. But now we're gonna jump into his build. So this is what I go for him. So first up, we're gonna talk about the main build. So this is the build I go from. I go for Triforce first, then Static Shiv, Infinity Edge, Guardian Angel, and then Rapid Fire Cannon. So now a few things to note here. So the first thing to note is the exclusion of Mana Mune. I'll discuss it later. And the second thing to note is the exclusion of the Moral Reminder. So yes, of course, you don't actually shred that much damage with your E, so Mortal Reminder is still good, but I think for Corki, just going full crit is better with the Guardian Angel for the safety. So what I like to do is Triforce. So Triforce is Corki's most important item and your most key power spike, because he has 6 charges on his ultimate, which I also did not describe that your max charge is 6 just now, but the max charge on your ultimate is 6. So what you always want to do is to proc the Spellblade passive. You always want to do something like in the fight, you ultimate auto attack, Q auto attack, E auto attack, something like that. Basically, between every spell cast, you want to auto attack. And if you have all 6 charges of your ultimate and your E and your Q, you can do that like 8 times. And by the time you use up all your ultimates, your E and Q might be off cooldown and you can continue. So basically, you want to be auto attacking between every attack to get the Spellblade passive of the Triforce. This is what makes Corki really strong. The fact that he can proc Triforce non-stop. It does boost his damage up to the moon. So then what I like to go for is the Static Shift for both the attack speed as well as the crit chance, and of course the Static Shift passive, which will damage all the enemies in an area. So Corki, I don't go Phantom Dancer. I go for the full aggressive build of Static Shift and Rapid Fire Cannon. Now this is just my personal preference, but honestly Corki can be built in a number of ways. You can build Modern Reminder on Corki. You can go for like Phantom Dancer instead, as your last item instead of Rapid Fire Cannon. You can go for Rapid Fire Cannon early instead of Static Shift, then go for Phantom Dancer as your last item. But it's all, which crit item you want is always personal preference. It's always the same with crit items. They all give the same stats. It's just what passive you get from them. So this is my personal preference in terms of crit items. And as usual, of course, since we're going for a crit build, we're going to be going for Infinity Edge for the damage as well as the increased damage on crit. We're going to go for Guardian Angel 5th item just for a little bit of physical defense, which is armor, and also of course for the revive, which is the more important part of Guardian Angel. Then we're going to round it off with Rapid Fire Cannon for 3 crit items. That basically makes almost all our attacks crit. Which is really good, of course. Then for the boot enchant, what I like to go for is the Gluttonous Greaves. Normally I go for Gluttonous Greaves on all my AD carries, unless like I'm against like a full AD team or full AP team or something like that. But normally I just go for Gluttonous Greaves. And for the enchantment, normal AD carry enchantments, Quicksilver Sash, or the Zhonya's Hourglass, aka Stasis enchant, as well as Quicksilver enchant. So that is this is the build that I use on Corki. However, do note that with this build, especially since I don't even have mana flow ban, you are going to be very, very mana hungry, honestly throughout the game, but particularly you'll feel it in the early game where you're skirmishing a lot and using a lot of your skills. So you'll be feeling it a lot in the early game. So what some people do is they build Mana Mune as their first item, or at least build a tier as your first item. Now personally, I don't like that, because if I like go for tier first item, even if I don't complete my Mana Mune and I go into Triforce, it delays my Triforce, which is my most major power spike, by 900 gold, which is no small amount of gold. But however, it does fix your mana issues. So some people do go for the Mana Mune as their first or second item. So you will go for something like an Ezreal build. You'll go for tier into Triforce into Mana Mune. But I don't like it personally, so I don't go for that. And this is my build. So now here, obviously Conqueror is the best item, because you're going to be staying in the fight for a long time with your E and your ultimates. Conqueror is easy to stack for Corki, so you always want to go for Conqueror. Now for the second option, I like to go for Brutal for more early game damage. You can also go for Gathering Storm to scale better into the late game. Hunter Vampirism is an option as well. For some people love taking Hunter Vampirism. It's slowly rising up in popularity. Triumph and Weakness, not very useful, but what some people like to take as well as Champion, because Corki is a very safe AD carry like Ezreal. He does have a dash with his Valkyrie, so you can actually play really safe and take Champion. But personally, I think Corki's range is just too short, so I tend to find that compared to Ezreal, Corki is in a lot more risky situation. So I don't really like Champion, because I feel like I might die twice and basically make Champion not worth it. I basically only take Champion on Ezreal because he's the only one I'm comfortable with taking Champion on. As I said, for the second tree, it's normally just preference. I always take Hunter Titan or Spirit Walker, and but I've seen a lot of Corki like to take Backbone and Conditioning for extra defenses, but I just go for Hunter Titan as usual. Then for the last rune, you can actually take Mana Flow Ban to sort of alleviate your mana issues, but I like to go for Sweet Tooth, because what I can instead do is eat the plant and get mana back that way. So you know, it's sort of similar, and I only normally take Mana Flow Ban if I'm going for Mana Mune to increase my damage at the same time, so I don't really go for Mana Flow Ban. You can also go for Hand of Genius, but without Mana Flow Ban and or Sweet Tooth, unless you're going for the mana immune build, you're going to be running out of mana a lot. So I think Sweet Tooth is, you either need Sweet Tooth or Mana Flow Band if you're not going for the mana immune build. If you are, you should be going for Mana Flow Band anyway for increased damage. So Hunter Genius maybe not the best option here, and the rest you don't really have to talk about it. So here we have the spells. So of course you're going to be taking Flash, and then as usual it's either Heal or Barrier, but I tend to think that Barrier on Corki is normally better because as I said, your range is really short, so normally you want to have the Barrier for the extra security, so that you don't get instantly blown up, like when you go in. So another thing with Corki is that you need to wait and bide your time to go into auto attack. Sometimes all you need to do is stand at the back line and just shoot your ultimates. You don't have to auto attack at all because it's too risky for you to do so. But if you can, of course, that'd be good. So that is it for the builds, runes, and spells. Now we're gonna actually move on to the gameplay. Alright, so here we have the gameplay. So as you guys can see, of course, I'm playing Corki in the AD carry role. However, I would like to point out that up till now, for the leveling order and the build as well as the runes and spells, it's completely the same for both Corki ADC and Corki mid. It's just that here there's a slight difference. So here, I don't know where I'm showing my Q there, but I'm showing it out of the map. No idea what's happening there. My controls went a bit wonky, but oh well. So we did actually manage to set up a so-called trap in the bush. When Lux came over to ward, we did manage to get some damage off on her. So here you guys can see, my main goal of the laning phase is just to poke them. So here I'm just trying to avoid the Jinx poke myself and trying to avoid getting snared by the Lux. Here, as you guys can see, I'm just throwing my Q and trying to just poke them out. So here, both Lux and Jinx have taken a bit of damage. I've barely taken any damage, but my mana is running out fast. As you can see, after like 3 Qs, my mana is about like 1/3 gone. So Corki is really mana hungry. Alright, so yeah, as I was saying, Corki, mid, and ADC have the same build and everything, but the way they play is slightly different, of course, because in mid, you do have you are alone and you can get ganked from multiple angles, whereas in bot you do have someone with you, and also there's only one angle that you can gank from, so it's a little bit safer in that sense, which is why I like playing Corki AD carry, because I can scale more safely into the later part of the game, compared to mid. But alright, so here I'm playing with a Leona and not an Enchanter. So with a Leona can only just ult in and engage. She can't really, like you see here. So here Leona goes in. I'm gonna, of course, get off my Q, get off my armor shred. I'm gonna here have the Valkyrie for the kill. And then I'm gonna have to run. I barrier here. I'm taking a lot of minion aggro. I'm trying to get the kill on the Jinx. But here you guys can see, Leona has came over and took the minion aggro from the minions from me. Not I might have died, but yeah. So here we don't manage to pick up the kill on the Jinx, but we do pick up the Lux. So here I'm just gonna clear up the minion wave, and we're just gonna back. Now the lane state is now back to neutral, but unlike usual, we're not actually gonna continue pushing because we are out of both health and mana. And as you guys can see, Tryndamere is actually in the top side, which is what I suspected. We didn't actually have any vision of him, but there was of course the risk he was top side. Of course Lee Sin is completely wrecking him, but he was still there. So if he just eat or flashed in, I was basically dead there. So that was the right decision to back off. Here there's a skirmish happening in the river, so of course we're gonna rotate Valkyrie over the wall to get into the fight. Here Yasuo has Tornado, so we're not gonna overcommit to the fight. He's used the Tornado, so we're gonna go back in. Here Leona gets off a nice root. I get the kill onto the Lux again, and a kill onto the Jinx as well. So here we already got 3 kills in the early game, as well as 3 kills in the early game as well as 1 assist. So it's looking pretty good for us here. The enemy bot lane is dead, so we're just actually going to use our E and just shove the wave. This is to deny them minions, of course. So here the minions are crashing into the tower, and of course it's early game, so they've both just revived. So by the time they make it back to lane, they'll be losing a couple of minions, maybe 2 minions or so, which still makes a difference. I'm gonna back because, as usual, Corki has a lot of mana problems. I'm gonna back for the mana, and of course picking up the item. I have all 3 components of the Triforce already, just because of how ahead we are in general from the 3 kills and 1 assist. So here Corki and Leona go really well together, because Leona can lock someone down for a very long time like that, and allows Corki to simply stand there and shred them with shred their defenses with his E without facing any danger at all, because the opponents are permanently stunned, rooted, and everything. Like Leona goes in rooted, stunned, everything, and I'm just standing behind her and just shredding them with my E. So here, if you guys can see, whenever first dragon spawns, you always want to back not for the mana, not for the health, but for the package, because your package is a major team fight tool, especially in objective fights. Because if you guys can see, the river of course is very narrow, and also it's really nice location to put your package across the dragon pit, across the entrance, across, you know, anywhere. Like here you see, I'm splitting up the fight. Tryndamere can't walk across, because if not he'll take a lot of damage. He tried to attempt to walk across, but you know, he realized that he got slowed by 90% and took a lot of damage. He immediately reversed and got out of the fight. So that allowed us to isolate the Yasuo for the kill. So if you guys thought that it first appeared that package wasn't really the best, because I didn't directly hit anyone with it, but that is one of the two uses of the package. The first one is to, of course, go into the middle of the enemy team, split them up. Secondly is just to zone. So I use that to zone the Tryndamere out of the fight. So Tryndamere won't be able to come into the fight unless he basically loses half his health to the trail there. Here I'm taking the fruit for mana, and so we basically allow us to 3v1 the Yasuo, and then still manage to get Tryndamere off on the chase later on. So now here we're really fed, 403, and when we back for the package, we also did manage to pick up the Triforce. So you really need to take note that whenever first dragon spawns, you always want to back and get the package. Ideally, your team should wait for you to come with the package before doing the dragon, or before attempting to contest the dragon. But you know, our team is really far ahead in this match. We're already like 10-2. We're like 7k goal ahead. So we're winning on all fronts. Lee Sin is fed. I am fed. Ari not so much. Renekton not so much. Our team is mainly fed from the bot lane and the jungle, but yeah, so Ari just dies here, but you know, it's better than nothing. Here, I walk in, Yasuo has his tornado, and here you guys will see I'm gonna 1v1 the Yasuo. I don't really have a choice here, honestly. He's on the chase, but I managed to kill the Yasuo only because I'm so fed at the moment. If I was not 403 with a Triforce, there's no way I win against Yasuo there. So now, I like to take note. I like to point out that this technically was a mistake. I shouldn't be fighting Yasuo, but what happened here was that I walked in, I saw Yasuo had his tornado thing. I went like, oh no! I wanted to reverse direction, but before I had any time to react, I got whacked by the Yasuo tornado. Yasuo follows up with his ultimate, of course, and when Yasuo is on you, he still has his E to chase you after that. So I couldn't really do too much. Of course, I Valkyrie over the wall, but he can chase me. And take note that the one of the key reasons I won the fight is because I activated my Gatling gun immediately, which allowed me to begin doing damage and shredding his defenses right as he got onto me. The moment I got out of his ultimate, I pressed E straight away, even before I Valkyried away. So that allowed me to shred his defenses to the maximum that I could, which is 8 armor and 8 magic resist, I believe. So I shred the maximum amount of defenses, which allowed me to do more damage to him, and I also hit my barrier, you know, to barely survive the fight. Now, it also can be noted that I was of course doing with Leona as usual. So here we ran out of minions. I was doing with Leona as usual, so I was actually telling her, you know, to come to me, but instead we have a miscommunication and we split up, and she goes for the kill on the back line instead, between the two towers. Here Yasuo goes on me again. I have to flash to get out of the way. So as you guys know, being an ADC, doesn't matter how fed you are still just as squishy as if you had 0 kills, because you're building damage anyway. You're not actually building any defense as ADC. So no matter how fed you are, if anyone goes on you, you always have to run. So Yasuo gets on me again. This time I have to blow my flash. So Yasuo, you're really taking all my summoner spells. But we do manage to pick up the kill on the Yasuo again. So now at this point, we are 6-0-6. You know, 12 KP out of our team's 14. So we're doing really well. We back, get health and mana, pick up our package which has respawned, and also pick up the static shiv. So we have 2 items completed, and 2 expensive items. The Triforce is the most expensive item at that. We have the most gold in the game. Lee Sin also has Triforce and Yomu's gold split completed, so our team is doing really well in general. Here, I'm pinging for Dragon, but what I'm gonna first do is push out the mid wave so that they have to react to the mid wave. It's gonna push in all the way to that tier 2 tower, and here we don't even get a contest on the Dragon because the enemy team is so far behind that they're not even gonna contest the Dragon, which is of course the right decision. Instead, they're gonna try to cross map and try to get a kill off on the Renekton, who is not doing too hot this game. What am I gonna do? I'm gonna my team can pick up the Rift Herald themselves. So what I'm instead gonna do is I'm gonna help out the Renekton here. So here, if you notice, I'm going onto the Darius, who firstly, number one, is the closest to Renekton and puts Renekton at highest risk of dying. So I do want to save the Renekton's life. Secondly, I know that Tryndamere has not used his Undying Rage, so going onto Tryndamere does not make sense because firstly, he can run me down, unlike Darius, which has no mobility. Secondly, he has his Undying Rage, so I'm not going to be able to kill him anyway. So instead, we go onto the Darius, which allows us to both pick up the kill as well as save Renekton's life, possibly. Not fully sure if Renekton would have died to Darius there, but he was pretty close. So here we're gonna go hit back top, clear the entire main wave. You only use your E if you're trying to clear wave. You never use your E in lane unless you're clearing wave or going to a skirmish. If you're not trying to shove wave, never use E on the wave. Here, of course, I shove the wave. There's a fight breaking out at mid. I walk through what is honestly a really unsafe way, but I've checked earlier that Darius is not standing right there ready to hook me into the tower, so it's not too bad. I didn't want to go the long way because I wanted to quickly join the fight. Here we destroy the tower, but Darius does not realize how low his tower is, so he does manage to get... he does overstay, and he basically is gone. Here Yasuo has his Tornado again. I'm not gonna make the same mistake. I step back. Yasuo gets a 4-man ulti, but unfortunately I was not in the ulti. So as he was, technically his ulti CC'd himself on the spot because he had to ulti them for like a second or a second and a half, which then allowed me to activate my E and shred his defenses in the meantime. And the moment he got out of his ulti, his team has no follow up, so we just essentially my entire team, we 5v1 the Yasuo, unfortunately. So, really important to note when Yasuo has his Tornado, you want to, of course, get out of dodge, get out of the way, which is exactly what I do there. I see the Tornado, I immediately hightail it behind my, not really behind, but to the side of my team so I won't get hit by the Tornado. But Yasuo does a really good job there of getting a 4-man ulti, and if I hadn't noticed, that would have been a 5-man ulti, which, it could have changed the outcome of the fight by a lot, because I was actually, using my E on him the entire time. So if I wasn't, who knows what would have happened. Here, Yasuo overextends. We're gonna sidestep the Lux ultimate. Of course, we don't want to get hit by that. We do get hooked by the Darius though. A little bit of an aggressive Valkyrie from us, but we're really hit. Our team is with us, so it's not too much of an issue. Tryndamere is backing up, so I'm backing up. I want to back and get items, get mana, get health. I'm low on resources, but Tryndamere turns and goes onto Leona, which is really good on him. He does have his Undying Rage, so he did manage to kill the Leona because of that. If he didn't, of course, we would have bursted him in time, but unfortunately for Leona, he does have his Undying Rage, and she dies because of that. Now enemy team has surrendered. They had enough, so let's instead take a look at the stats and see how we did. Okay, so we did pick up an S, and we are the MVP. As you guys can see, Lee Sin picked up an S as well. Leona got an A, which of course is really good. We only managed to get into our first 2 items. Actually, if I had backed there, I would have completed my next item and maybe even another item because I haven't backed for some time, but that doesn't matter. Game is over. We did go 808, so not dying on Corki, really good, of course. What else we have? We have most teamfight participation and most wards placed. Of course, that's really good. You always want to have high teamfight participation, and vision and denial of it is really important. Leona standard build does well. Unfortunately, dies at the end. If not, it could have been 0014. Ahri goes for an early moral reminder, which is it's all right, just due to the fact that Lux did go for Harmonic Echoes as her first item, so that kind of counters Lux's Harmonic Echoes, counters Darius's heal on his Q, counters Tryndamere's healing on his Q, and Jinx has yet to pick up any form of lifesteal, so doesn't really help in Jinx, but that's fine because don't forget that in the early stages of the game, Ahri ended up with 734, but in the early stages of the game, Ahri wasn't doing too well, so there is a thing where you basically play to get carried. It's no insult, but sometimes if I was the Ahri and I see that my my Corki and my Lee Sin and my Leona are doing very well, I wouldn't be, you know, greedy in and build full damage. I would change my build to what this Ari did, which is utility, building the Morelos as her second item. So I really like what this Ari is doing here. This is something that a lot of people need to learn how to do. She does pick up the Twin Shadows as well, which is, of course, it's good as an enchant. The rest of us haven't even completed our enchant. Renekton doesn't do too well the entire game, but he did do quite a bit of pushing, so he did get tower damage. And he has Black Cleaver, which is Black Cleaver into Blade of the Rune King, which is fine for one of the Renekton builds you can go. I prefer just going Black Cleaver into tanky, but you know, you can always go for more offense with the Bork as well, so nothing wrong there. Jinx curiously starts Runan's Hurricane. I don't really like that. Normally you go for Blade of the Rune King or Infinity Edge as your first item, because with Runan's you have no damage. Starting with Runan's Hurricane, you only get attack speed and crit chance, but you don't actually get any AD at all, so you really don't do too much damage. But yeah, so Tryndamere, his build is fine. Lux support build is fine. Darius is fine. I think he's going for a second item, possibly Death's Dance, but he might also be going for Black Cleaver, in which case it wouldn't really be good. Yasuo has gone Static Shift and going into Blade of the Rune King, which is also fine as well. Yasuo takes the most damage because he keeps going into the entire team. But yeah, that's it for the builds. Let's now take a look at the numbers. Alright, so here we have the numbers. So Renekton has 1 teamfight participation. Honestly, in terms of numbers, we're not really going to be talking about him because he has 1 teamfight participation out of 24. So his damage and his how much damage he took honestly doesn't really matter. Lee Sin did pretty well as a jungler. He did gank a lot and, you know, got a lot of kills and all that. Put our team ahead, even including me and Leona in the bot lane. Ari did fine. We did do the most champion damage. Leona didn't tank too much, as I said in my Leona commentary guide. Leona doesn't really tank a lot of damage. And we did take the least damage in our team, not counting Renekton, of course, who didn't participate in team fights. Which is really good because you don't really want to be taking damage as Corki. Like, if you're playing like Kai'Sa, you can't expect to be taking a lot of damage because if you're diving in with your ultimate into the enemy team, you will of course be taking damage. Just you know, you probably can out damage them and kill them before they kill you, kind of thing. On the side of the enemy team, honestly, Yasuo did pretty well considering how behind his team was. He did output a lot of damage. He took a lot of damage, probably because he dived into our team a lot. Lux did pretty well in the sense that her damage and how much damage she took is decent. Although as Lux, she probably wouldn't be taking too much damage, but she did have 4 teamfight participation, so she did try her best to help out her team as the support. The rest, nothing too notable to talk about. With that, thanks for watching the video, guys, and goodbye.